Hi, welcome back. So last lesson, lesson 1, we learned the 4 basics of calligraphy, and I showed you how to do those strokes. They're very simple, and we showed you 3 letters that contain those single strokes, the I, the L, and the J. Remember now, the dot didn't really count as a stroke. So what we're going to do this week, we're going to look at all the letters that contain the 2 strokes of calligraphy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put those together to form words. Now these are not going to be long words that you're going to have to remember, but they're words that you can write over and over again to get your style down a little bit better. We're not going to get into spacing as such today, but I do want you to be aware that as you write your words, that you need to be aware of the spacing. So let's go ahead and get started in lesson 2, and lesson 2 is how to do the 2 strokes in this 2-stroke calligraphy. Okay, so let's just do a recap of last lesson. So before we had we showed you how to do the basic 4 strokes of calligraphy. We've got the downstroke and up, and we have the straight stroke, and then we went from the midline or the lowercase line down through the base line to the ascender, or descender, sorry, and then we did the descender one and the baseline one, and then we did the letter G. Showed you how to do that. Then we showed you the single stroke letters that combine just the single stroke of this one up here, and we did the I, the J, and the L. Remember, the I and the J, these dots are really not considered strokes because they're really just basically ticks. And then we did the word calligraphy, and I showed you the center line, midline, lowercase, baseline, and descender line, and we went through that, and then I signed off with my name. So today what we're going to do, we're going to look at all the basic 2-stroke letters that we have, and we're going to go through those one at a time, and then I'm going to explain some other things to you. And then remember, we did this with the baseboard. We took this board underneath and to stop the bleed through, and you can see that some's already gone through. So we're going to use our board again, and just get this pencil out of the way. There you go. All right. So basically what we're going to do today is we're going to look at these basic 2-stroke letters. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first letter we're going to look at right now is the letter C. And the letter C is basically the first 2-stroke letter, and it's actually the most simple. What we're going to do is we're going to come down, remember keeping our pen at a 45-degree angle, and remember that's the first stroke we do, and then the second stroke is this one right here. So you see we go 1 and 2. The next letter we're going to look at is the letter F. Now, we can do this as a 3-stroke letter, but we're not going to today. We're basically going to start up here. We're going to come down just a little bit, and we're going to stop right there, and then we're going to do a second stroke across. Now, what we want to do on this one is we want to make sure that we go this way. Now, this can actually be done a different way. We can actually not go through the straight stroke line. We can actually just stop right here and just do that little portion right there, but we didn't do that with this F. The next letter we're going to look at is the letter H, and we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to come down. I'm going to stop right there. That's 1 stroke. Now, if you look also, that this is actually the reverse of this stroke. We're going to come up and come down. So we're basically doing the reverse of this one. So we're actually, instead of doing it this way, we're doing it this way. So it's still a single stroke. So we actually go 1 and 2. So the letter H then is our second stroke. Now the letter N is actually very similar to this, and in fact we don't start up here. We start at the midline, and we come down, and we stop, and then we do the same thing here. It's basically this upside down. So we got letter N. So then let's do the letter O. Letter O is usually one that's confused. People think the letter O is a single stroke because you can do it this way. So most people write the O's like this. What we're going to do is make it a 2-stroke because that's an easier way to do it in calligraphy, especially in calligraphy, because you can formulate the letters differently. So we're going to start here. We're going to come around 1, 2. Now we did a little bit of a round one there, so let me do another one for you. And we're going to do it this way and that way. So I'm going to kind of italicize it a little bit. So you can see it's 1 and 2. So that's also a 2-stroke letter. So the letter R is actually one of those that can actually be modified to be a 3-stroke letter. We're going to make it a 2-stroke letter today, and we're going to look at that. So we're going to come down, and basically it's just the end, but it's got that little shortened piece. So it's this stroke, but it's shortened version of it. So we're going to come up and down. So you can do it that way, or you can do it like this, and you can go up, down, and just bring that tick around. So we can actually do it like that. The next letter we're going to look at is the letter T. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start midway between the ascender and the midline, or the lowercase line, and we're going to start right about here. We're going to pull it down, and we're going to pull it up like that. So that's our, it kind of looks like that single stroke that we did for the L. And what we're going to do is use the second stroke, is this one right here. And we're going to look at the letter T. So the next letter we're going to look at is the letter U. Now the letter U is actually very similar to the letter C in that it uses both of those strokes. So it uses the stroke 1 and stroke 1. So we're actually using stroke 1 twice. And this one uses stroke 1 and stroke 2. This one also uses stroke 1 and stroke 2. So we're going to look at this in a different way, is using stroke 1 twice and joining them together. So the next letter we're going to look at is the letter V. Now, a lot of people think the letter V can be a 3-stroke letter if you want it to be, but we're going to make it a 2-stroke letter. So what we're going to do basically is we're going to take the 1 stroke and we're going to bring it down at an angle like this, and we're actually going to do that tick that I showed you in the first lesson. Rather than making it round, we're going to just do that little tick at the bottom, and we're going to start right about here, and we're going to bring that down and join it together. So that's the letter V. And basically that is actually a different stroke than the ones we did here, but it's actually very similar to this. The fact that we don't join it up here, we're actually just starting right there and bringing it down. Because if you looked at it a different way, it would actually look like this if we looked at it in a different way. So let's look at the V again. So we're going to do that stroke down and tick and pull it back up. And I kind of made that a little too short there. So that's the letter V. So the next letter we want to look at is letter X, which is our last letter in the 2-stroke section. And the letter X is actually one that is formulated this way. We're going to come down like this and pull it up. So you see that it's kind of like a little smooth, I don't know what you call that, letter S, I guess. But you pull this up and down, and it's just basically this stroke, stroke 1, down and up. And then we're just going to pull that down like that. So that's actually the 45-degree angle that you're holding your pen at. And that's it for our letters. And then when we come back, well, I'm going to show, kind of join these together with our single stroke letters and do some words. Okay, so now let's look at some words we can do using the letters we've learned in the last 2 lessons. And we're going to use some letters from lesson 1 and some letters from lesson 2, and we're going to formulate some words. So the first word I want to do is the word lilt, and we're going to be using our single stroke letter, and which is the 3 single stroke letters and the 2-stroke letter. So basically we're going to do what we did before in lesson 1. We're going to come up here and we're going to do the word lilt, and we're going to come down and up, down and up. Remember that little tick? Down and up, and starting midway, and then we have the word lilt. Okay, and in future lessons we'll show you how we can modify these to make them look a little prettier, because we're not looking at pretty right now. We're actually looking at technique and getting you on the path to knowing what the strokes are. So the next word we're going to look at is the word north, and we're going to incorporate the 2-stroke letters here. And the word north is going to give you some idea of how to formulate your N's, your O's, and your T's and H's together. So let's look at the word north. So we're going to start out here. We're going to come down 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then starting midway again. Pull that down. Make sure you get that little join there. And then we have the word north. So now we've used these 2-stroke letters. We've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. So now we have those together. So let's look at another another word that will use the single stroke and the 2-stroke. And we're going to use the word jut. So we're going to use the letter J. We did that in our first lesson. We did that single stroke down. And this is actually the 3rd stroke that we did. So we're going to use the word jut, and remember the U is 2-stroke ones together, and then we're going to pull the T back down and up. And remember we're starting about midway between those 2 lines, so that we have the word jut. And that kind of gives you some words to work with so that you can practice with all the letters that we work with today. So the next word we're going to look at is the word tux. So again, tux is going to be one of those that will give you some idea of how letters look when they're together. So let's start again with the T. I'm going to come down here, pull it up. Again, the U is the 2 single strokes. Now the letter X, you can do it this way, is you can actually pull it here, or you can pull it here. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to just join it like that. So that's the word tux. Let me do that again because I want to show you a different way of doing that. So we're going to do the letter T. And it come down like this. And like that. So you can actually do it that way too. I actually made that a little too short. Alright, so then the last word we're going to look at is the word VIN, which is V-I-N. So we're going to actually do the V. And I want to show you how that works as a joined letter. Come up that, remember that, do that tick on that V to get that correct. And then we're going to pull the I down, and then we're going to look at the N. I just pull that down a little bit like that. So that will give you some words to work on. And so in the next lesson, in lesson 3, we're going to go into the 3-stroke letters, and I'll see you next time. So until next time, this is Terry. Signing off. Happy lettering.